In 2013, an 18-year-old girl named Alaya James was sentenced to life in prison for murder. But there was no weapon, no body, no crime scene. Just a missing boy, and a town that needed someone to blame. And in a place like Easton County, Texas, where power protects power, they didn't need proof. They just needed a story. And Alaya? She was the perfect villain. Quiet, poor, black, different. They said she was jealous. Said she killed her classmate, Zachary Raynor, after he rejected her. That she lured him into the woods behind the school and beat him to death with a rock. But there was no rock. No blood. No clothing. Nothing. Still, the sheriff, Thomas Beckett, claimed he had a confession. An audio recording. Scratchy. Muffled. A voice saying, "I did it." But no one could prove it was hers. No lawyer. No jury. Just a public defender who fell asleep during the trial. And a courtroom packed with Raynor supporters, whispering lies into every corner of the justice system. Alaya cried out that she was innocent. That she hadn't seen Zachary in days. That someone was framing her. But no one listened. Because the Raynor family? They owned half the county. The sheriff was married to Zachary's aunt. And the judge? An old hunting buddy of the victim's father. The media painted her as a monster. Headlines called her the smiling killer because she dared to smile once, nervously, during cross-examination. That moment alone sealed her fate. Life without parole. At 18. But here's the thing. Zachary Raynor wasn't dead. 5 years later, a freelance documentarian named Keon Harper stumbled onto the case while researching wrongful convictions. He read every transcript, watched every news clip, and something didn't sit right. No body, no DNA, no trace of death, just fear, and politics, and silence. He reached out to Alaya, now 23, still behind bars. Her letters were raw, intelligent, heartbreaking. "They erased me," she wrote. "They buried me alive." Keon wasn't rich. Wasn't famous. Just a kid with a camera. But he had one thing the system never gave Alaya: belief. He started digging. Interviewed old classmates. Teachers. Neighbors. Found gaps in timelines. Conflicts in testimonies. People recanted statements. Said they were pressured by deputies. That they just said what the sheriff told them to say. Then came the break. One night, Keon was reviewing surveillance footage outside the Easton County Courthouse. From years ago. The day of Alaya's sentencing. He paused at the frame. Zoomed in. There. In the crowd. A boy in the background. Baseball cap low. Hood up. But unmistakable. Zachary Raynor. Alive. Keon tracked the footage to a wider angle. And there it was. The boy getting into a black SUV. Texas plates. Registered to a shell company owned by the sheriff's brother. Keon went to Alaya's new attorney, an ex-NAACP civil rights litigator named Bernice Cole. She was skeptical. Until she saw the footage. Then she was furious. "This ain't just a mistake," she said. "This was built." Bernice filed for an immediate reinvestigation. But the judge blocked the motion. Cited insufficient evidence. Same judge from the original trial. That's when Keon went public. Posted everything. The photo. The SUV. The sheriff's connection. The timeline. It went viral in 72 hours. Millions of views. Hashtags. Outrage. And that pressure? It cracked something. A deputy, retired, came forward. Said the confession tape was a fake. Said the sheriff had looped a voicemail from Alaya and edited the words. And the final nail? An anonymous tip sent to Keon's inbox. Coordinates. Deep in the Texas woods. Keon, Bernice, and Malik, Alaya's older brother, went out there. And what they found? A rusted trailer. Inside, old photos. School yearbooks. A pair of Zachary's sneakers. And a notebook. Written in Zachary's handwriting. "I'm sorry. I didn't know what they'd do to her. Sheriff said if I left town, they'd pay off my mom's debts. Said Alaya wouldn't get life. Just a scare. But they lied. And now I can't come back." A confession. Zachary was alive. And the sheriff knew. Bernice filed again. This time with the federal court. And finally, Alaya was released pending review. After 1,843 days behind bars. But it wasn't over. Because 2 nights after her release, her motel room door was kicked in. She wasn't there. She was across town, visiting her mother. But Keon was inside. Bruised. Bleeding. Barely conscious. And scrawled across the wall in red spray paint. "You want him back? Bring her to me." The sheriff was gone. His house abandoned. His badge left behind. No one knew where he was. But he was watching. The tables were turning. Alaya wasn't just the accused anymore. She was the threat. And the question now wasn't just whether Zachary was alive. It was whether he was still free. Because someone, somewhere, was holding him hostage. And if Alaya didn't find him first, he'd disappear again. This time, for real. The motel room was dimly lit, the flickering neon sign outside casting erratic shadows across the walls. Alaya sat on the edge of the bed, her hands trembling as she held the note left behind by the sheriff. "You want him back? Bring her to me." The words were scrawled in red ink, the letters jagged and uneven, as if written in haste or fury. Beside her, Keon lay unconscious, his face bruised and bloodied from the assault. The room reeked of fear and desperation. Malik paced the floor, his fists clenched, eyes darting between his sister and the door. "We need to get out of here," he said, his voice low and urgent. "It's not safe." Alaya nodded, her mind racing. The sheriff was playing a dangerous game, and she was the pawn. But she refused to be manipulated any longer. She had spent 5 years in prison for a crime she didn't commit, and now, with Zachary alive and the truth within reach, she wouldn't let fear dictate her actions. As they prepared to leave, Keon stirred, groaning softly. Alaya rushed to his side, gently helping him sit up. "Keon, can you hear me?" He nodded weakly, his eyes barely open. "They took my laptop," he whispered. "All the files, gone." Alaya's heart sank. The evidence they had painstakingly gathered, the proof of her innocence and the sheriff's corruption, all vanished. But she refused to let despair take hold. "We'll find another way," she said firmly. They left the motel under the cover of darkness, moving cautiously through the back alleys to avoid detection. Alaya knew they needed help, someone with the resources and authority to take down the sheriff. She thought of Bernice Cole, the civil rights attorney who had believed in her when no one else did. If anyone could help, it was Bernice. They made their way to Bernice's office, a modest building tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. She greeted them with concern, her eyes widening at the sight of Keon's injuries. After tending to his wounds, she listened intently as Alaya recounted the events of the past few days. Bernice's expression hardened as she absorbed the information. "This sheriff has gone too far," she said. "We need to bring this to the FBI. With the evidence we have, they can't ignore us." They compiled everything they had, the video footage, the note, the testimonies. Bernice contacted her connections within the FBI, arranging a meeting to present their case. The agents listened carefully, their faces grim as they reviewed the materials. "This is serious," one agent said. "We'll open an investigation immediately. But we need to find Zachary. His testimony is crucial." Alaya nodded. "We'll find him. We have to." With the FBI now involved, they had a powerful ally. But the sheriff wouldn't go down without a fight. They needed to stay one step ahead. Keon, despite his injuries, worked tirelessly to trace the origins of the note. Using his knowledge of digital forensics, he discovered a hidden code embedded in the ink, a set of coordinates. They pointed to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. "It's a trap," Malik warned. "He wants us to come." Alaya agreed, but they had no choice. If Zachary was there, they had to act. They informed the FBI, who agreed to send a team to accompany them. As they approached the warehouse, tension hung thick in the air. The building loomed ahead, its windows shattered, the walls covered in graffiti. The FBI agents took the lead, weapons drawn, as they entered the dark interior. Inside, the air was damp and musty. They moved cautiously, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. Suddenly, a noise, a faint groan, echoed from the back of the building. They followed the sound, finding a locked door. The agents forced it open, revealing a small room. In the corner, bound and gagged, was Zachary Raynor. His eyes widened in shock as he saw Alaya. Tears streamed down his face as the agents freed him. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I never meant for any of this to happen." Alaya stared at him, a mix of emotions swirling within her. Anger, relief, betrayal. But most of all, determination. They had the proof they needed. The sheriff's web of lies was unraveling. As they exited the warehouse, the sun began to rise, casting a golden glow over the horizon. But their relief was short-lived. A sudden explosion rocked the building, flames engulfing the structure.